Hello, hi, welcome back everybody to yet another daily cooking stream, to yet another episode of the Daily Cooking Show. If you are watching this live, it is currently Wednesday, 5 p.m. EST. It is February 28th. If you're watching this back at another time, hello to you too. I'm sorry I couldn't catch you live. I see that we have a bunch of lovely little sous chefs in chat at the moment. Hello to Jack. Hello to Audio Murphy. Hello to Serena Chess. Hello to Trash Can Cat Mom. Hello to Moonhum. Hello to Ramajes. Not really sure how to say that. Hello to P1 Angel. Welcome on in. I hope you've all been having a beautiful day today. Everybody, I am a little underslept, admittedly. I am a little underslept. I am going to be okay. We're going to power through today. We're going to have a really nice, delicious stream. As always, I am excited about what we'll be making today. It's something that we haven't made in a while. Also, hello to the morgue. Welcome on in. All right. So, good morning. I want to hear a nice resounding hi, chef, from everybody watching. I was going to say yes, chef, but that doesn't make sense. I want to hear a nice hi, chef, from everybody right now. Okay. So, we today are going to be doing a really lovely, really, really beautiful, really simple, well, maybe not so simple. We're going to be doing a really, really beautiful black bean soup today, my friends. And it's all going to start from this. We have a pound of dry black beans. Okay? So, my friends, my little sous chefs, guess what? My black beans here, they're dried. They're not canned. We don't use canned beans on the stream. We don't use canned beans on the show. Let me tell you something. Canned beans, you're effectively paying 1.5 times as much. Also, thank you so much, Sierra, for this up. Thank you. You're effectively paying 1.5 times as much for a lot of additional water weight, and then you're not able to control the texture nearly as well. One of the biggest things that I really want to do to encourage people to do at home is to get into the habit of making dried beans from scratch. A lot of people, that maybe didn't necessarily grow up with a family that did that are quite unaccustomed to doing so. And so, I love showing you how to do this in a pressure cooker. I think a pressure cooker is a really, really nice way to make some dried black beans really quickly, really easily. And there's some advantages and things that we gain from doing this. First of all, we're saving money. Dried black beans are cheaper than canned beans. Second of all, you're able to control your texture. When it comes to canned beans, I find that sometimes they're a little too firm and sometimes they're a little bit too soft and mushy. And the third thing that we want is we want that cooking liquid as a byproduct. That cooking liquid that you see for the beans makes for an excellent thickening agent for something like this black bean soup that we're doing today. Okay? So I think it's really, really essential. I want you all to get into the habit of doing this, and that is something I want to get all of you excited to do. So we're going to go ahead and put that down behind us. Everybody, the next component that we have for today, I have some really, really good quality chorizo here. This is some local chorizo. A lot of chorizo that you can buy in the United States, even at some Latin grocery stores, is not particularly amazing. This one is really, really coarsely ground. You don't have to use chorizo for this dish, by the way. I'm just adding it because it would be nice to get a little bit of meat in this. We're going to get like the fat out of the chorizo. We're going to cook some of the vegetables in it, and it'll just make a really, really pleasant, really delicious addition into today's soup. But you can absolutely do this without the chorizo. The chorizo is not an essential element by any means. So, I'm going to go ahead and put that behind me. Now, let's talk a little bit about the vegetables that we have for today. So these are all the different vegetables, my friends, that we are going to need for the soup. I have quite a bit of a variety. We're going to be starting by building a sofrito. Also, welcome on in Windows blue screen of death. Welcome on in. We're going to be building a sofrito today. A sofrito in Latin cooking is essentially the mirepoix, is essentially your aromatic base that you'll be cooking everything else in. And our sofrito today is going to be built off of bell pepper, it's going to be built off of onion, it's going to be built off of tomato, it's also going to be built off of some of these lovely chilies. Now these chilies, these bird's eye chilies, are because I had some in my fridge and I wanted to get rid of them. And so all these vegetables, they're going to get charred, they're going to get nice and smoky, and we're going to pulse them, cook them down, evaporate the liquid, and they'll make for an excellent, really, really delicious addition into the soup. It's going to give us a lot of flavor. That's not just the beans and the chorizo themselves. So we're building the sofrito, we're building the aromatic base. You can also buy things like, like canned like Goya sofrito and stuff, but honestly, it's such a different product to make it on your own, okay? So we have some of these bird's eye chilies. You can use any kind of spicy chili that you would like. I, once again, just had these in my fridge, even if they're not indigenous to this world. Right? We have some lovely tomatoes, some plum tomatoes, because they were cheap. You can use any kind of tomatoes that you would like for this. I have a green bell pepper. I wouldn't actually substitute this. Also, Kitsune, thank you so much for the sub. Thank you. I wouldn't actually substitute this with like a red bell pepper or anything, The reason why I want the green bell pepper for this, not the red bell pepper, is because the green bell pepper is really vegetal. And I find that the red bell pepper is quite sweet. So this is the one that I would kind of keep as is. So you can do things like poblanos, you can do things like cubanelles, but I wouldn't do like a red sweet bell pepper for this. Okay, and then the onions are interchangeable. You can use any kind of alliums that you would like. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and set that behind me. Everybody, we can't make Latin food without cilantro. I have a bunch of cilantro here that has been freshly washed up. We put it into the salad spinner, and everybody, we're keeping the cilantro nice and fresh in a Tupperware, in a container with a paper towel as a natural humidity regulator. This is how you keep your cilantro, your fresh herbs really nice and fresh and alive and healthy for quite a bit of time. Yes, Serena, I would say red bell peppers, orange bell peppers, yellow bell peppers. They're too sweet for what I'm going for. I'm looking for like the green bell peppers, right? Because they have a much more vegetal taste to them. Okay. In addition to all of that, everybody, we have, of course, some whole cumin seeds, and we have some oregano. We're going to grind it up. We only use whole spices here. Does culantro work? Yes, it does, Jack. In fact, culantro would be an excellent addition into the sofrito itself. But the cilantro itself, some of it is going to go into the end. Some of it is going to get cooked into it. There's going to be a lot of cilantro in this. So yeah, we have some oregano, and then we also have some cumin seeds. And then what else do we got? We got plenty of garlic. We have plenty of garlic. That's going to go into the beans. It's going to go into the soup. Also, by the way, if we have time today, we'll also do a little grilled cheese sandwich with the black bean soup. Just because I was kind of craving a grilled cheese, and I thought that it would be a really pleasant addition. So I have some cheddar and stuff in my fridge. Okay, so everybody, that is all the ingredients that we need for today. Is everybody ready to begin? We have to make the beans. I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to teach you how to make beans in a pressure cooker. I'm going to talk to you about the importance of making dried beans at home again. And then we'll build all the other stuff that we need for the soup. We're gonna have a lot of flavor. Everything is gonna be nice and smoky. It's gonna be full of vegetables. I'm pretty excited about today's black bean soup. So, yeah, it's gonna be really nice. And what bread would we be using for the grilled cheese? Really good question, Munha. I have here, actually, that has the bakery name on it. So I'm not going to show you the bag itself. I have this Chinese like bakery, really like soft white bread. This really soft sandwich bread that I really like. Right? Really similar, I guess, to like a Japanese like shokupan. The stuff is pretty amazing. I love it. So I got this at my local Chinese bakery. It's what I do for like sandwiches for grilled cheeses. It's really soft. It's very supple. It's really pleasant. Okay, so everybody, before we begin, once again, if you haven't already done so, please check out my Patreon, !Patreon in chat if you would like to support the stream, if you would like to support what we do here. And before we begin, does anybody have any questions? This would be a really good time to ask. Once again, you can ask anything about food. You can ask anything about, you know, the dish that we're doing today. What is chef's teaching job? Serena, I did get hired. I'm not going to specify where, but I did get hired as a cooking teacher. Yeah, I'm officially employed in that regard. The streams aren't going to change at all, but I am pretty excited about it. Okay, so everybody, let's begin. So the first thing that we have to do, I'm currently on my stove at the moment. I have my container of water. I have 2 quarts of water. The golden ratio, okay, for making beans in a pressure cooker for me has been 1 pound of dried beans to 2 quarts of water. You don't have to be exact with this ratio. You can have a little bit more water, you can have a little bit less. I don't think it matters that much at the end of the day. It's just about building up pressure and making sure that the beans cook through and everything. So approximately 2 quarts of water to 1 pound of black beans. And then we're going to take all of that cooking liquid and reduce it. Everybody, when you make dried black beans from scratch, I want to make sure that all of you guys are listening right now. You do not want to throw away that cooking liquid. That cooking liquid is filled with all of the starches and the proteins released from the beans. That cooking liquid gets nice and thick and viscous. That cooking liquid is how we're going to have a beautiful viscosity to the soup today. I see so many recipes that say, oh, for the chili, we're going to drain this can of black beans. We're going to drain this can of chickpeas. We're going to rinse out all this liquid. It makes absolutely no sense. That cooking liquid that we are getting out of the black beans is going to be essential for the final viscosity and the final texture of the soup today. So once this is cooked, do not get rid of it. So going into 2 quarts of water, I have 1 pound of dried black beans. Okay, you can soak them. I don't soak them because I don't get the digestive issues. You can soak them if you want, knock off a couple minutes off the cook time. Right, not a huge deal. Okay, and now let's get into all the stuff that is going to go into the pot for these black beans. Let's go ahead and get that started. So normally, whenever I do my black beans, I do like stuff like chorizo and sazon. I'm actually doing a fairly neutral, very like sort of like clean tasting black bean today. It's not as seasoned as usual because I don't think I'm going to use all of the black beans for today's soup. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. This is how I want to flavor it. I am going to be lucky enough to get some vegetable scraps. Specifically, I have this green bell pepper here. Normally, we wouldn't want to use the top and the bottom of it, right? And all the seeds and stuff. I'm not going to put like the seeds inside, but I'm just going to trim it up a little bit, and I'm just going to throw it into the pot, and hopefully it'll flavor the beans a little bit, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with this bell pepper. We're going to shave down the sides as we normally do, because all the seeds are in the center. We want to shave down the sides. We want to shave down the sides, just like so. There we go. Excellent. So these, the actual flesh of the bell pepper itself, we're not going to need at the moment. I'm just going to go ahead and set that behind me. And then all I'm going to really do is I'm just going to trim this up. The seeds and stuff I'm not going to include in this. But then I kind of have like this odd, awkward part of the bell pepper that I wasn't going to like shave in there anyways, like all this residual stuff. I'm just going to throw it into the pot of the black beans. And then we'll just pluck it out after it's cooked, and it'll be good. Okay, what's the next thing that we're going to need? We're going to want some garlic in there because, garlic is going to be really nice and delicious. No matter what you use these black beans for, you're allowed to flavor it with basically anything that you want. Okay, so I'm going to do about like 3 cloves of garlic. But we're not going to mince it. We're not going to chop it because the idea is we just want to be able to pluck out the garlic cloves after. Okay, so 3 cloves of garlic. And then I'm going to take my handy dandy little bench scraper. Gonna take this bad boy, and then we're just gonna flatten it. While we're flattening it, the more we crush the cells of the garlic itself, the more flavor it ends up releasing, the more pungent it ends up getting, okay? But we don't wanna chop it, we don't wanna mince it, we don't wanna do anything too crazy with it because we still wanna keep it intact enough that we can pluck it off. And Jack, you have told me about that. Yes, it's a little bit laborious though. I'm gonna just take the skins. You don't really need to take the skins off. They'll just kind of float to the top. I just don't want any skin in my black beans. It's not really gonna add anything. So these big chunks of garlic, I'm going to go ahead and throw them into my pot as well. Additionally, what else will we be adding? I have some bay leaves here. Really like having bay leaves in my black beans. I think it's just like a really, really nice, delicious aromatic component. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a few leaves of those. Nothing too crazy. Something like that should be okay. Okay, just a few leaves of bay leaves. A few bay leaves, that was a little bit redundant. Also gonna go ahead and throw that into my pot. Just grab that. I didn't really need to put that on my cutting blade. I just wanted to do that to visually stimulate it. Okay, there we go. What else do we want? We want a little bit of allium in there. We want a little bit of onion flavor. So I have this big white onion here. And so I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to cut this in half, but I'm not going to cut it in half the traditional way. I'm going to cut it in half the other way. The reason for that is because that way the onion is going to be kept as intact as possible. When the onion cooks, it's going to impart some sweetness, some of that quintessential allium flavor into the whole thing. But if I were to cut it the other way, the onion would end up falling apart into all of its respective layers. By simply taking this onion and cutting it in half, like so, this section of the onion is going to stay intact and not fall apart, and then we can easily pluck it out. All of this is done for the sake of both flavoring the beans and then also flavoring the bean cooking liquid. Now, you don't really have to peel this. I just didn't really wash my onion skin, so I don't feel like including that in there. But half of just like a large white onion, I'm just going to go ahead and throw that into the pot. Okay, throw that into the pot. That goes inside, lovely, and I can go ahead and set the rest of that behind me. Still, the core of the onion attached, the root of the onion attached. Okay, what else will we actually need for the beans? And now, by the way, everybody, the way that you actually season your beans, the way that you actually process your beans, it is entirely and completely up to you. I'm keeping today's beans fairly relatively plain because, again, I want to be able to do something with this later on in the week, and I don't know what it will be for. Right, so I'm not using any really, really strong flavors. The only really strong flavor that we will be using today, sorry, wrong camera. We're going to be using some of this. We're going to be using some chicken bouillon powder. I don't have any chicken broth. You don't need to include this. I just really, really, really like the taste of powdered chicken bouillon. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a couple of spoons into the pot. Again, there is no precise measurement for something like this. I just want to clarify. You are just doing this to your heart's content. You don't want to have too much of it because then it can get like really, really salty. And again, I'm not looking for this to overpower everything else. So I'm just doing, like one big, 1.5 generous spoonfuls or so. And I don't feel the need to salt this any further because it's going to naturally have salt in it, the bouillon that is. And then we'll naturally salt it as we actually build the soup itself. So we're cooking the beans separately. We're cooking the beans separately because the beans need the most amount of time compared to everything else. So everybody, in this pot at the moment, I want to make sure that all of you are listening. I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef. In this pot at the moment, we have 1 pound of black beans to 2 quarts of water. I love doing dried beans at home because canned beans, you are buying a lot of additional water weight, you are overpaying for it, and you're getting a suboptimal texture. Okay? By having dried black beans that you're making from scratch at home, you have a lot more control of the texture, you have a lot more control of the end product, and you're saving a lot of money. I think this is something that everybody should get into the habit of doing, especially if you have access to a pressure cooker. Why do I like doing this in a pressure cooker? Well, instead of taking 2 hours, this is only going to take 40 minutes to an hour. And we don't need to do any kind of soaking whatsoever. All that we need to do is set this on for a high pressure, cook it for 40 minutes on a high pressure, drop it down, natural pressure release, and then it's done. And then we'll have a beautiful pot of black beans. So I'm gonna go ahead and cue that up. I'm gonna go ahead and get that going. And that's it. That's all the work that we needed to do for the bean portion itself. And then while that's going, we can go ahead and build the rest of the soup. I think everybody should be getting into the habit of making, if possible, if you have the time available to you, you have nothing except, stuff to gain for making dried black beans from home, from scratch. So, hi, welcome back. Did the stream freeze? I don't think it did, Jack. So everybody, the beans are currently going in a pressure cooker. All that we did was we set those up. They're going to cook through now. And now we have to worry about all of the other components into the soup today. So let's go ahead and talk about our vegetables one more time. We have these green bell peppers, we have this tomato, we have this red onion, and we have this white onion as well. This is a leftover red onion. And we also have some of these spicy bird's eye chilies. We're going to be building something today called a sofrito. Sofrito in Latin cooking is just any sort of aromatic cooking base, depending on where you're at. If you're in Mexico, if you're in the Dominican Republic, if you're in Colombia, every country and every sort of family has their own sofrito that they're using. So I'm not necessarily directly inspired by any of these existing sofritos. I'm just going to be making my own out of some existing ingredients. The bell peppers are going to add a really nice vegetalness. The tomatoes are going to add like a really nice acidity and sweetness. The onions are going to add a nice allium flavor and sweetness. The bird's eye chilies are going to add some of that heat, and then the cilantro is going to add some freshness. So let's go ahead and start building that, and I will walk you through the process of building that sofrito. Does anybody have any questions for me at the moment? Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. We are going to set the broiler on because I want to char some of these vegetables. I wanted to originally do today's black bean soup with a couple of chipotles, but I couldn't actually find any. I couldn't find any fresh chipotles at my store, so I did not opt for them. So instead, the way that we're going to integrate a little bit of smokiness into today's dish is by charring our components. Very similarly to how we start, a lot of salsas, especially in Mexican cooking. We're going to char the tomatoes, we're going to char the bell peppers. It's going to be really delicious. Favorite sauce to make, Trash Can Cat Mom? What is my favorite sauce to make? I feel like I don't typically make sauce. I mean, I guess just like my salsa roja. My salsa roja is so good. Right, nice and smoky, tomatoes, some chilies in there. I gotta say, I think that's my favorite one to do. So, we're going to set our broiler on to high. Everybody, the broiler is your top heating element of the oven. Also, Jack, my day has been okay. I'm a little underslept, I'm a little tired today, but we're just gonna power through today. We're gonna set the broiler on our oven. That's the top heating element, because again, the goal is not to cook these vegetables through. The goal is to simply, get them nice and charred and nice and smoky to add a really, really nice, delicious flavor to our sofrito. So let's go ahead and build that now. Let's head back over here, my friends. Back to the cutting board. I'm also just now going to clean this up ever so slightly. Okay, and then I'm also going to wipe off my knife in the meantime. Boop. Excellent. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that started. What are we going to need? We are going to need a sheet tray. Have I seen a Pokemon Presents? Oh, I absolutely have, Moonhub. What is my favorite type of pasta? I do love pappardelle. I love pappardelle. It's one of my favorites. It's nice and flat and wide. Love it. Okay, so I have a nice sheet tray. Wait, is that blood? What do you mean? Where is the blood? Where do you see on my cutting board? That'd be really funny if it was. No, it was just onion juice. So I have a nice big sheet tray. This is not a particularly necessary step, but I like doing it because it does save a little bit of cleanup. This is just going to be the vessel that all the vegetables that are charring, they're just going to go on. Okay? You can theoretically just char things directly on your sheet tray, but they tend to kind of stick and burn and get a little bit unpleasant. So I don't always recommend doing that. So thus, I'm going to be a little bit wasteful. I'm going to use a little bit of aluminum foil. Once again, completely optional step. This you can also just accomplish this by putting it onto the sheet tray directly itself. Okay. So I'm going to grab. This foil is tearing. Uh-oh. What is going on? Okay. A little bit of foil. Pop it down. Just a new roll of foil that I bought. Okay, lovely. And then I'm just going to go ahead and set that behind me. Okay, just making sure that there's nothing else in my oven. Excellent. So everybody, let's go ahead and build the elements. Let's build the components that we need for today's sofrito. So once again, a sofrito, this is your cooking base. This is the cooking base that is going to be used for the soup. What would be also really nice, you can make a big batch of sofrito in advance and add them to dishes like making a pot of rice, right? Making a pot of soup later on. A lot of people, what they do is they try to freeze the sofrito into like an ice cube tray. They pop out the ice cubes, they keep them in a freezer bag, and then they just throw them in as needed. I'm not going to be doing that because I will be using all the sofrito that we're making today for today's soup, but a lot of people like doing this step in advance, okay? So let's go ahead and begin. These bell peppers, you remember we already shaved them down. We don't have to do anything else with them. We're just going to go ahead and, drop them right onto the sheet tray. Excellent. All right. I'm going to now glove up because it's time for us to cut up some tomatoes. And again, what you actually do put in your sofrito and your aromatic cooking base, it is entirely up to you. There is no wrong way to really do this. The entire idea is you just want to take a bunch of aromatic vegetables that'll really, really cook down nicely and flavor your entire dish. So typically you see onions, you see tomatoes, you see cilantro, that sort of thing. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the tomatoes. I have a couple plum tomatoes here. I am thinking, I actually don't want 3 tomatoes. I think 3 tomatoes for this dish is going to be a little bit too much. I'd rather just do the 2 plum tomatoes because I really want my sofrito to get like a really nice color on it when it cooks. I think the tomatoes might add a little bit too much liquid. I don't want the tomatoes to overpower everything else. I think oftentimes, by the way, when people cook with tomatoes, especially when they're making a chili, whenever they're making a soup, I think people overdo it with tomatoes severely. I think tomatoes become the only thing that you can actually taste. So what I really, really like to do is being a lot more moderate and a lot more conservative with my usage of tomatoes. So, in this case, we're just going to do 2 plum tomatoes for today's pot of soup. Everybody, I'm just cutting these in half lengthwise, cutting it through the core, okay? So that we can then expose the inner core and just make a couple of diagonal incisions, pop it out. Make a couple of diagonal incisions, pop it out. Nice and easy. Today's black bean soup, everybody, it's going to be really nice. It's going to be really simple. It's going to be really delicious. The reason why I love black bean soup like this is because it holds in the fridge super well. It reheats exceptionally well. This is the kind of a thing that I would really consider to be the epitome of home food. I consider this to be the epitome of home food. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take all of my tomatoes and just drop them right here. Lovely. I have half a red onion from the last time. It's a bit of an old red onion that we have here. The red onion itself is also going to be chopped up really, really nicely, really beautifully. Half a red onion. I'm just going to go ahead and cut the root of it off. And then I'm going to cut it in half like so. And then if you'd really like, you can also like separate the layers a little bit when you put it on the shichir, but I don't think it matters too much. This is not really the one that we need to char too much. If you char your onion too much, it does kind of end up being a little bit too bitter because of how much sugar the onion has. The other vegetables, they do have like a skin protecting them, but the onion itself, because this is purely the flesh and the thing that we're directly eating, I find that it can get a little too charred too fast. So I'm not going to break it down into its individual layers. I'm just going to keep it as it is. And now I'm trying to think, do I want the rest of this onion? We have this white onion, we have this chunk of white onion. And I'm thinking, actually, for today's soup, this onion I'm just going to chop up and have separately. What would be really, really nice is having some of the onion that gets like, processed. It's going to go into my blender. It's going to go into the sofrito itself. But then I also want some chunks of onion. So I'm going to keep this onion aside. I don't think we're going to need it at the moment. And the chilies themselves, I'm not going to char them. The only other thing that we're going to do, everybody, we're just going to go ahead and get a few garlic cloves ready for the sofrito as well. Save them for Friday? Yeah, something like that. So the garlic cloves, we're going to do like, 4 garlic cloves or so. You can't have too much garlic, everybody. We have a bunch of garlic cloves here. The only thing that we're going to do to them is we're just going to cut off the root ends, the dried off like butt ends of each of the garlic cloves. And the reason we're doing this is so that we can then really, really easily peel it afterwards. When this is charred, the skin of the garlic is actually going to protect the rest of the flesh from getting too charred and from getting too smoky and from getting too bitter. Okay? So just find that it's really, really nice to just do that, but then you keep the rest of the skin on. The skin is a very, very natural protector for the rest of the flesh of the garlic clove. Does anybody have any questions? Is everybody listening? I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef, please and thank you. 4 garlic cloves. Gonna go ahead and drop that onto the sheet tray. Lovely. So everybody, take a look at our stove again. Take a look at the sheet tray on the stove. What we have here is the basis of our sofrito for today. We have 2 plum tomatoes, we have 1 green bell pepper, we have a bunch of garlic cloves, and then we have some red onion. We're going to char it, we're going to get it nice and smoky, and then we're going to pulse it down. We're not going to completely blend it into a paste, but this is going to be the base for today's soup that I'm doing. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab it right now. Lovely. Put it under the boiler, and there we go. Excellent. And we're just going to go ahead and let that, just had a little bit of foil pop out. We're just going to go ahead and let that do its thing. We're going to go ahead and char it up really, really nicely. Okay, let's go ahead and get the rest of the components ready for the sofrito, because that's not all that we're using. In addition to those components that are currently under the boiler, that are currently charring, I have here a bunch of chilies. I'm going to be using 4 bird's eye chilies. Also, thank you so much for stopping by, Blobfish. Hope you have a lovely evening. I have some bird's eye chilies here. We're not going to take the seeds out because, again, I want to intentionally get that heat in. I want to get this whole thing to be really, really nice and spicy. In fact, 5 bird's eye chilies? No, stop it. I'm being stupid. I'm making stupid decisions. We don't need 5 bird's eye chilies for this, although you could theoretically do it if you really wanted to. The only thing that we really need to do for this is we need to cut the heads of it off because, of course, we can't eat the heads. And then we're just going to chunk it up a little bit. This is going to go into my blender, or if you have one, ideally, you would want to use a food processor. The only thing that we really need to do is just to help it out just a little tiny bit by chunking it up slightly. Because otherwise, the blender itself is going to have a very difficult time actually pulsating through it and processing it to any capacity. Okay, so we have some of these bird's eye chilies. I'm going to go ahead and get them already immediately into my blender cup, if I can find it. Hello? Aha, I found you. Excellent. I'm just going to go ahead and take that and throw that into my blender cup. Boop, throw that on in. Lovely. Okay. 4 bird's eye chilies. Now, you don't have to be using bird's eye chilies for this. You can use serranos, you can use jalapenos, you can use whatever spicy chili that you actually have. The reason I'm using bird's eye is because I ended up having some at home already that I wanted to get rid of. So even though bird's eyes wouldn't even necessarily be super authentic in something like this, it is authentic to my own home kitchen. I'm using the things that I have before they actually end up going bad. Okay, my pressure cooker has just beeped. That is telling us what? That the pressure has built up inside, and now the black beans are actually fully cooking through. Okay, the next thing that we're going to need for the sofrito is going to be a nice bundle of cilantro. The cilantro itself can actually be kept stem on for this. Normally I'd pluck away the stems, but the reason we can keep them stem on is because they're going to be processed and somewhat blended down. Okay. The cilantro, everybody, once again, I have it thoroughly washed. I have it sitting here in a container with a paper towel inside. The paper towel is a natural humidity regulator. It's going to stop it from being too wet, and it's going to stop it from being too dry. This way, you get to keep your herbs nice and fresh for a longer period of time in the fridge. Cooking at home, especially with fresh herbs, can be such a challenge because let's say you buy a thing of cilantro, and then in a few days, it already starts to go bad if you don't properly store it. Because of how much you have to buy at a single time, it can be really, really stressful buying fresh herbs in a home setting. So, all the cilantro at the moment, everybody, I'm just going to keep it nice and fresh under the paper towel. Gonna put that back into my fridge because we're not going to need the rest of it for quite a while. And as for the rest of the cilantro, everybody, all we're going to do is we're going to take it, we're going to bundle it up, and really, really similarly to the chilies, all that we want to do is just chunk it up, slice it, just slice those stems, just get it to be a little bit more feasible for the blender to work with it. Okay, here we go. Nice and easy. That's all we have to do to it, really. We don't have to chop it, we don't have to mince it or anything, but this, I'm not actually going to add immediately to the blender. Also, my delivery guy is here in the middle of my stream. That was my doorbell. I apologize. So, everybody, these herbs, we're not going to add them in immediately. The reason we don't add them into the blender immediately is because the cilantro is the most delicate. Out of the tomatoes, out of the onions, out of the garlic, out of the chilies, it is the thing that is the most delicate. If we blend this up too much, it's going to turn into a paste and it's going to end up overly oxidizing. So you don't have to do this step. You don't have to like separate it and then add it in later if you want. I just think that it is a little bit more optimal to do it this way. You really get to preserve the integrity of the cilantro by doing this, by doing this step. So all I'm going to do, everybody, I'm just going to take it, and I'm just going to scoop all this up and I'm going to set it aside into a different container. And this is going to be added last. So after my vegetables are done charring, my bell peppers, my onions, my tomatoes, my garlic, I'm going to let that cool down enough and then, we'll just blend it up and get a really beautiful sofrito out of it. In the meantime, let's actually check how all of that is doing under the broiler at the moment. Let's go ahead and take a little look. Again, all we're looking for is for the top of it to be nice and burnt. We're not looking to cook it all the way through or anything. We just want to char all of our lovely vegetables. Okay, actually, that is exactly what it needs to be, everybody. Nice. Look at that. That is exactly what we're looking for. Now, you don't have to peel any of this charred skin or anything. I'm going to be intentionally keeping all of it intact. So once again, the bell peppers, the tomatoes, we got it nice and charred, nice and smoky. All of this is going to end up pulsated in my blender. You really, really don't want to get like a puree out of this because I still want like a little bit of texture at the end of the day with it. And it's going to be great. So we're just letting this cool down enough. You don't really want to blend hot things if it's like in a enclosed blender system. Right? If it has like a lid on it, because then it traps the steam and then it overheats and then it can kind of explode. So you just want to let this cool down enough, roughly to room temperature or so. Okay. So I'm going to take this sheet tray and I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to let that cool off. Does anybody have any questions for me at the moment? It doesn't have to just be about this dish today. It can be about anything that you would like. I'm going to go ahead and put the cilantro and the chilies behind me. That is now in the past. And now we can continue moving on with the rest of our vegetable prep. I mean, Jack, I already told you, we don't need to mince the cilantro because the blender is going to take care of the rest of the work. Okay? The blender is going to take care of the rest of the work of processing the cilantro, so we don't really need to slice it at the moment. Okay, let's head back to my cutting board while my vegetables are just sort of chilling out a little bit. We're going to go ahead and process my onion that we have here. So we have about half a white onion. All I'm going to do is I'm going to slice it down through the root because the root of the onion is going to keep it intact as we end up cutting up the rest of it. And then we can go ahead and peel it this way. We open it up, we make that incision. Excellent. That's one half. And remember, the other half is currently with the beans, just flavoring those really, really delicious beans at the moment. Okay, and so for my onion, all I'm going to do, everybody, I'm looking for a small to medium dice on this. I'm looking for onion pieces that are roughly the same size as my beans. I'm not looking for anything like massive. I'm not looking for really, really massive chunks. But also, this is a black bean soup. You can cut this however you want. Okay, so all I'm going to do, everybody, I'm just going to go in. I'm going to make some parallel incisions. Again, I'm going for like a small, medium dice here, something that is going to emulate the size of all of my black beans once they're done cooking. Okay, so we fanned it out, held together by the root end, right? And now, all we have to do, my friends, is just take it and pull a knife through. Ooh, that's a big-ass onion. My goodness. Just pull and push your knife all the way through. And then again, that's all we're looking for, like a very, very rough, small to medium dice. Really simple. Nice. There we go, perfect. I'm going to make sure that I have a separate plate to go ahead and set this aside on. Also, Jackie, thank you so much for the sub. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're having a really good day today, my friend. So that's one half of the onion, and now let's go ahead and do that second half. I wish I tied my hair up today, but I did not. I did not. Welcome on in, Jackie. Howdy, howdy. Okay. Big old pile of onions. And guys, remember with things like soups and stews, you can't really have too many onions. I love onions to death. You can cut these as big or as small as you like. We're going for like a very, very rough, small to medium dice on these bad boys. Okay? And so I just find that it's really nice to have this duality of onion. We have two very different flavors and two very different textures of onion that end up getting represented in the final dish. We're going to have some of the sauteed onions, like in these like whole pieces or so, that you'll really be able to like taste and bite into and like feel the texture of. But then also at the same time, we have some of these charred onions that are then going to go into the sofrito. So we get some more of like those deeper, roasted, smokier notes out of it, and it's going to be a lot finer in texture as a result. So we get this like really, really fun duality. This is something that I love doing in a home setting. You can have the same ingredient, but then you can treat it in two very different ways to get two very, very different, you just get to highlight different things about that product, okay? So, I'm gonna go have a nice little sip of water. Does anybody have any questions for me at the moment? You guys are so chill today. Wow. So, I'm just going to keep that off of this burner because I'm going to need that in a moment's time. Okay, excellent. Now, what else do we actually need to get done? Let's go ahead and do like a bit of a recap session actually. Currently in my pressure cooker, I have going the black beans that we need for the black bean soup today. 2 quarts of water to a pound of black beans, some bay leaves, some onions, some other vegetable scraps in there, getting it nice and delicious and flavorful alongside some chicken bouillon. I have chopped up 1 whole onion. We chopped up a bunch of vegetables to make today's sofrito. We're going to blend that up, and then we also have some chorizo. The chorizo we're going to slice up into coins. We're going to get some good color out of it, and then all the chorizo fat is going to go back into the soup today. Okay? The beauty of using something like chorizo in something like a black bean soup is that we get that really, really delicious byproduct in the form of chorizo fat. Fat is as much of an ingredient as everything else in the food that you make. Okay? So you don't want to just be using neutral oils like canola oil and vegetable oil all the time. By having chorizo and adding a little bit more than we normally would want, we get to really, really get all of that animal fat out. The really, really delicious stuff. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start preheating the vessel that we need for today's soup. We're going to start searing off the chorizo. The goal is to get all of that fat melted down. We're going to get those chorizo coins nice and crispy, and then I'm going to have a little snack. If we need to thicken a sauce, but not flour or cornstarch, what can you use to thicken the sauce? Jack, there's other starches. You can use potato starch. You can use xanthan gum. People also use gelatin to thicken sauces. That's how like meat reductions, right? Things like jus. That's how they get really nice and thick. So, everybody, back to the stove. We are now going to get my beautiful Dutch oven, my Le Creuset out. I love my Le Creuset to death. So, everybody, it is time to learn how to use a Le Creuset. This is something that I talk about all the time. But people do not generally know what they're doing when they use a Le Creuset. They make a couple of critical mistakes. So everybody, if you own an enamel Dutch oven or you plan on owning one in the future, I want all of you to listen right now. I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef, from everybody watching. Please and thank you. I want you all to take notes. Now is the time to focus. Even if you're new here, if you're lurking, I want to hear yes, chef. The number one mistake that I see people do is they take their Le Creuset or any cast iron and they slam it with a high heat and they heat it up for just 2 minutes and they say, ooh, it's hot now and it's ready to go. No, it's not hot. You have hot spots and then you also have cool spots. By taking something like this, by taking a cast iron, by taking a carbon steel, a thick piece of metal and slamming it with a high heat and then only heating it for a short amount of time, you will get little zones where it's hot from where the fire made contact and then little zones where it's cold. The key to an evenly heated Dutch oven or any piece of cast iron is to go medium and slow. Next, this is a Le Creuset. It's an enameled Dutch oven. Enameled, meaning there is this glass-like coating on it, this ceramic glass coating. We do not use metal on this bad boy. Under no circumstances do we use metal on the Le Creuset. I see people go in there with a metal whisk and a metal spatula, and it's ridiculous. You're scratching and destroying the coating on the bottom. So only wood and only silicone are my acceptable materials on this. Number 3, we don't heat it up when it's empty. If you heat it up when it's empty, once again, you're going to get the hot and cool spots, and it's bad for the enameled coating over time. So we always heat it up with something inside of it, being oil or water. So while we're heating this up, we're going to go ahead and put this on the aforementioned medium heat, not a high heat, but a medium heat, because we want to go ahead and heat this up nice and slowly. Even though we're going to get some chorizo fat, we want a little teeny tiny splash of peanut oil, right? You can use any kind of oil that you want to. This is just going to be to get the chorizo going. We want to heat this up nice and slowly, my friends. The goal isn't to get the oil smoking hot at this stage, by the way. We want a medium heat for when we cook the chorizo. I want you all to listen right now. The goal of the chorizo is to squeeze the fat out of it. If we start the chorizo off on a super high heat, it's going to brown and get very dark in color, and the spices are going to burn before we melt the fat out. We want to make sure that we're cooking the chorizo medium and slow. Medium and slow to slowly squeeze the fat out without burning the outside. Not everything in cooking has to be max heat, crank it all the way up to the top, and then you're always trying to get color on something. The goal is to squeeze the fat out. And the way to do that is medium heat. We don't want this oil smoking hot. All right? So, I'm going to go back over to my cutting board as my Le Creuset, my beautiful Dutch oven, is heating on up. Just make sure that my oil is distributed, but again, we're not going to be looking for this to be too hot or anything. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit. There we go. That should be okay. Just want to make sure that my camera is actually focused at this stage. Is my only consideration. My apologies, everybody. 1 second. Great. Okay. One little quick second adjustment. So let's go ahead and get the chorizo cut up for today. I'm going to go ahead and get a different cutting board because I still want to be able to use this for some other vegetables that we'll need. So I'm just going to swap this out for my plastic cutting board. Again, not very necessary. I just have other prep that I want to do on that cutting board. Let's go ahead and grab, for today's black bean soup, and again, the chorizo is only going to be a feature of today. It's not going to be one of my essential components. You can absolutely do today's soup without any chorizo, without any animal products whatsoever. I just love the chorizo fat. I love the flavor that it gives. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut the tip of it off. And then, all we're going to do is we're going to get some nice coins of this. You can also just take the skin off and then crumble it up if you'd like, but the texture is actually entirely up to you. I was just thinking about how pleasant it would be to have nice coins of chorizo. So all we're going to do, and it's a lot easier to do this when it's cold, by the way, we're just going to do exactly that. Nice little coins, one by one. And you can see, look how coarsely ground this chorizo is. This is a really good quality chorizo. You can see these massive things of fat. And we want to get that fat. We want to get that fat, and we want to make it work for us. Okay? Just slice it up one by one. Get it done, skis. Does it make a difference when you make a sauce out of the mayo and meat bits? Yes, it does, Jack. Deglazing and making a sauce out of fond is going to innately be more flavorful. So, just getting the coins out, And also, by the way, if you don't have access to a good quality chorizo, just get the best sausage that you can buy. Anything that's like, in this case, nice and fatty, nice and coarsely ground, will also just do amazing. Even if it won't be as authentic without the chorizo, I just want to teach you the technique. Okay? Get all of that nicely and beautifully sliced on up. Excellent. Okay. That is some good chorizo, isn't it? That looks pretty wonderful. So, all this chorizo, we're waiting for the oil to heat up. We don't want it to be so cold that the chorizo is just going to immediately stick to the pan. We don't want it to be so hot that it's like searing and sizzling away immediately. So let's just go ahead and test the oil. You know what? It's making a little bit of sound. That's fine. At the moment, I think that's going to be more than fine. We're going to start it off on the current heat, and then it's just going to continue to, heat up as it goes. Just going to grab all this chorizo, put it into my pot. Does anybody have any questions about today's black bean soup? There you go. It's going. Okay. Nice. Oh, beautiful. So, Scribblo, you've asked me, how do you tell good chorizo from bad chorizo? That's a really good question. The reality is, in the United States, most of the chorizo that you buy isn't particularly good. The thing that I'm looking for is for it to not be sort of like vacuum packed, and I don't want it to look sopping wet. A really good thing to do is also just to look at the other ingredients. You're not looking for any starches inside of it. You're not looking for any preservatives. You're looking for something that doesn't look like it's sopping wet, and you're looking for something that's very coarsely ground. My favorite sandwich to make or get, I love me a good roast beef sandwich. I don't make a lot of sandwiches at home, Trash Can Cat Mom. Okay? So, remember what I said. We don't use anything besides wooden tools and silicone on my lovely Le Creuset. We give this thing the respect that it deserves. And we're heating it up nice and slowly on that medium heat. We're being nice and patient with it, and we're just going to make sure that all of that fat is just evenly and slowly coming off. Okay? I don't know what those little bits are. That's a little concerning. Yeah, not entirely sure what that is at the moment. It'll be okay. And slowly, with a little bit of time, my friends, you can already see that that oil is getting stained in color. It's getting a little bit stained. Any mods up? What's up? Did something happen? But you can see how that oil is getting really nicely and beautifully stained. That's all of the color, that's all the spices that are coming out from the chorizo. Okay. It is scorching, but like a little bit more than usual, and I'm trying to understand why that's happening. I'm not entirely sure like why that's the case. Like it's getting pretty dark on the bottom, but that's okay. It'll be okay. I think it's because I actually didn't have enough oil in the beginning. Yeah, that bottom of the pot is getting a little bit darker than I would have initially liked it to. Interesting. So there's a couple of reasons for this. My oil may have been a little bit too cold when I started moving it around, but it's also just going to be okay. Okay. So we're letting this go for now. I'm going to quickly take a second to just wash up my knife. My nice little chef's knife here. And I'm also going to put my other cutting board away into the dishwasher. Does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime? Hello, Dennis. Welcome on in. Hello, hello. Lovely to have you. Oh yeah, no, this today, I don't know what's going on. There's something coming out that's tending to like sort of like stick and burn. A little bit atypical for my chorizo to do this. Yeah, a little bit out of character, but honestly, completely okay. It's all going to get dissolved. It's all going to deglaze into the end product anyways. Was my Dutch oven just not completely clean? Was there like something on it that was burning? Interesting to think about. I'm just noticing a little bit more discoloration than usual on this. Chef's favorite non-Gengar Pokemon? It's gotta be Zoroark or something, or like Absol. Have to cook it. Serena, I am not cooking a Pokemon. It is just not happening. I am not cooking any of my favorite Pokemon. Absolutely not. Is this a different chorizo than the one I normally buy? Yeah, it is just a little atypical for things to dissolve out of it that quickly and to just sort of like start sticking and burning to the bottom, which is why I'm just getting a little bit concerned about it. It's gonna be okay. But you can see, everybody, now my beautiful pot cube is filling up. It is filling up with all of that delicious rendered chorizo fat. All of that is going to go back in towards flavoring the soup today. Okay? Full of spices, full of flavor. This is why we're using chorizo. This is why we added in. Is it essential? Absolutely not. You can theoretically just use oil. But to me, it is just that much of a difference. It is just that much of a better product at the end of the day as a result. Also, hello, Scuba Monkey. Welcome on in. I love food too. You've come to the right place. Hello, hello. So, okay. Honestly, at this stage, I think that does look pretty good. I don't want to take it any further because then the stuff on the bottom is going to burn a little bit too much. So all I'm going to do, everybody, I'm going to shut it off the heat. I'm going to shut off the heat, and then I'm just going to go ahead and add it to a bowl. I'm going to be using something like the slotted silicone spoon so that we can keep all of that chorizo fat inside of the pan. And we're going to need it. We're going to come back to it in just a second. So be nice and patient. So you can see, oh, this gorgeous, gorgeous vessel, full of fat, full of flavor. That's exactly what we're looking for. Okay. That is now done. That's now done its job. Everybody, please say thank you to the chorizo. So what is chorizo? Really good question. Chorizo is, in Spain, it is a dried sausage. In the rest of like sort of Latin America, chorizo is a fresh, typically pork sausage done with a bunch of spices. And traditionally, I believe it includes, I forgot like which glands of the pig as well. Chorizo includes a little bit of pimento, it includes some spices, it includes some glands. Really tasty stuff. Okay. Ooh, that's good. That's also hot. I want a little bit as a snack. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and wipe off my knife really quickly because it's a carbon steel knife. And then this pot, with all that chorizo fat, we're just going to go ahead and set it aside. Okay, the next step is going to be actually building the sofrito for today. Because now that all of my vegetables for it have officially cooled down, I'm gonna go ahead and put this pot away. Lovely, excellent, looking good. It is time to do the sofrito. So, here's what we're going to need. I am going to take my blender cup that I have put somewhere. So remember my blender cup with some of the chilies? We're going to go ahead and toss in my red onion, my bell peppers, my tomato as well. All of that is going inside of my blender cup. And the idea is we're going to basically blend this down until it gets nice and chunky. We're not going to blend it per se, we're just going to pulse it. We're just going to pulsate it. Okay. Now, ideally, instead of using a blender, you would use a food processor for this. I don't actually own a food processor, so this is going to be the next best step. Okay. And then the other thing, remember on my sheet tray, I also had some garlic cloves. I'm just going to go ahead and take those out of the skin now that they have officially charred up as well. Really, really nice. Just taking a second to do so. My apologies, everybody. It'll be just a moment. Okay. My garlic cloves can also be added into my sofrito. Lovely. And so this is going to be the aromatic base. This is going to be the aromatic base for everything today. I'm going to go ahead and get my blender blade on there. And now we're going to set up my blending station. So, could you theoretically just chop this up with a knife? Yes. Could you theoretically blend this down into a paste? Also, yes. The texture that it takes on is entirely within your control and your own desire. It is entirely up to you for what you want it to be. For my purposes, I'm looking for something still a little bit chunky, because I want the soup to have a little bit of texture in it. I still want to be able to bite into everything. And then also, the more that you puree this, the more that you process it, the more difficult of a time it actually has browning, because of how much moisture ends up getting released. The more you blend it, the more it melts in, but the more difficult it is to actually get some color on it. Does that make sense? So, blender, going onto my cutting board here, onto my little station. I'm only going to pulse this. This is my charred tomatoes, my charred bell peppers, my charred garlic, my onions, and then also some of my bird's eye chilies. We're going to get in there and give everything a nice shake. And then we're going to hit it with a pulse, and then take it and shake it up. Get the tomatoes to the bottom, the onions to the top, mix it up. Take it and shake it up. Take it and shake it up. Again, we're not looking for a puree. We're not looking for a completely homogeneous texture on this. Otherwise, getting color on it will be impossible. Okay, perfect. I'm going to stop right there because we still need to add in the cilantro. We didn't add in the cilantro before because we didn't want to over-process the cilantro. The cilantro is the most delicate component of all of my other sofrito elements. So now, everybody, goes in my cilantro. Whoop, I've just had some fall to the ground. That's fine, I suppose. Country girls make do. We're going to be okay. And now let's go ahead and finish up the sofrito for today. Just take that cilantro and once again, pulse it, pulse it, pulse it, pulse it, pulse it, pulse it. And that should be it. And I want to stop right there. The only thing that we're going to do now is we're going to go in there and we're going to inspect it and make sure that there is no big chunks remaining. I'm also just cleaning up some of the cilantro that ended up falling onto the ground. So let's go ahead and inspect the sofrito right now. Does anybody have any questions about this process whatsoever? So, everybody, let's take a look. This is my homemade sofrito. Charred tomatoes, charred garlic, charred onions, some cilantro in there as well. I want it to be nice and coarse, nice and chunky. If you have a food processor, it'll be an even better texture as well. The blender ends up processing it down a little bit too much. Smells great, looks wonderful. You smell the chilies. I mean, you smell everything that you could possibly want in there. You're getting the sweetness, you're getting the garlic. This is going to make for us the most beautiful soup today. And so all I'm doing is I'm just looking to make sure, hey, did all of my garlic get processed? Did all of my chilies get processed? And it looks pretty excellent. So, everybody, let's go back to the stove. It is time for us to now cook down the sofrito. The goal, we're going to evaporate the excess moisture and start browning the sofrito. We're not just boiling the sofrito, we're going to properly and thoroughly brown it. So let's get that going right now. Back to the stove. I can now do away with my blending station. Everybody, please say thank you to the blender. Say thank you to Mr. Blender. He did a wonderful job for us today. I'm going to take my Dutch oven, right? Remember him? Full of the chorizo fat, full of the fond from cooking the chorizo itself. I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it back onto the heat. The goal now is to cook down my sofrito to evaporate all the liquid from it. Okay, so we're just going to add it in immediately to stop the stuff from the bottom from burning. And it's going to be slow. This process may take up to 30 minutes, depending on how much moisture, depending on the texture of everything. And I know that doesn't look particularly appealing at the moment. But I promise you, this mixture has so much flavor inside of it. The green bell pepper, the tomato, the cilantro, the garlic, the onions. This has smokiness. This is going to bring a really, really beautiful smokiness into today's soup. This has all the vegetable flavor. This has all the sweetness, all the acidity. This is the base of today's soup. And now it is combining with the chorizo fat. And so we're going to use the naturally present moisture in the sofrito base that we made to essentially scrape up everything that could be stuck and scorching on the bottom. So take a wooden spoon, not a metal utensil. I want to hear a nice yes, chef, right now. You are not using metal utensils on an enameled Dutch oven. Okay? We're going to take it and we're going to scrape everything off the bottom. And now, everybody, this beautiful sofrito that we have made is now going to be cooking down. This is going to be the base of everything. This is going to be the base and the start of a pretty incredible, pretty remarkable soup today. So, I'm taking a second. I'm putting some stuff away soon enough that it's just going to be bubbling and boiling away. And then we're going to do a little recap session. And then we're going to move on to toasting the spices. We got a lot to do today. And you can already see it's starting to bubble away. Now, you want to make sure that your heat on this isn't too high. If your heat on this is too high, the bottom of it is going to end up scorching before the rest of the water has evaporated. Medium is going to be the key to this. A nice medium heat. If it's too high, it's just going to end up splashing all over the place. And so it's not currently frying. There's way too much liquid for any of this sofrito to be currently frying. You're going to see how the sofrito really transforms, how the fat seizes and releases from everything, and how much of a different product it's going to become, okay? Just take your time. Be nice and patient with this. This is not something that you want to rush. This is not a thing that you can just say, oh, we're just going to cook this for 2 minutes and then be done with it. This is the part of the process that takes a lot of time, okay? I want you all to understand what you're getting yourself into. But I promise you, you will be rewarded with a fantastic soup with an incredible depth of flavor after. So just take your spoon and break it all up. Lovely. Okay. And it has no seasoning at the moment. Don't worry about the seasoning. Don't worry about the spices. We're just going to get to it really shortly. Okay. I know that you want to get to the flavors. I know that you want to get to the spices of it. But we're just not there yet. Okay. One last thing to put away. Okay, everybody, it is time for us to do a little recap session. Today, we're doing a chorizo black bean soup. I had these beautiful coins of chorizo. We cooked them in a Le Creuset Dutch oven, and then we drained, we extracted a lot of the fat, a lot of the beautiful fat from the chorizo itself. We built a sofrito using tomatoes, bell peppers, onions, garlic, cilantro, and some chilies as well. We charred it, got it nice and smoky, blended it down, and now we're cooking it in all of that chorizo fat. In my Instant Pot, 8 more minutes, I have going my black beans. We're going to keep all the cooking liquid from the black beans, and now I'm going to sample. I'm going to have a little taste. Guys, that chorizo is so good. I need to stop eating this, but that's too good. I love chorizo with a passion. It is one of my favorite foods. Delicious. Okay. Really important. You want to make sure that you're stirring this often. You want to make sure that there's no solids on the bottom of your pot that could be sticking and burning. You want to make sure that it's evenly cooking and that all the moisture is evenly evaporating. Okay? So we're going to be stirring this sofrito every so often. I'm really excited about this black bean soup today. It's going to be delicious. Man, I want another thing of chorizo. Okay, I need to stop because then we're just not going to have any for the soup at the end. Oh, that's so good though. It's just going. It's just doing its thing at the stage. Just keep on mixing it, everybody. Keep on giving it a little bit of love. Okay. And now we will move on to the next step, which is going to be some freshly ground cumin, and we'll talk about the importance of having some freshly ground cumin. So, everybody, I want you all to tap in. I want you all to lock in. I want you all to listen to me. Let's head over to my overhead camera. This is my mortar and pestle, and the function of this bad boy is to grind up spices. Okay? So, I have here a bunch of fresh cumin seeds, whole cumin seeds. Pre-ground spices lose their flavor a lot faster than whole spices. When exposed to light and oxygen, your spices, the things that actually give the spices flavor, they will end up just becoming less volatile and less flavorful over time. Whole spices are intact. Whole spices will keep fresh for a lot longer. They'll hold on to a lot more flavor. So, I have here some whole cumin seeds. I'm not measuring. I just know that I love a lot of cumin. So I'm doing 3 big pinches of cumin seeds. We're not going to roast them because we're going to end up frying them, Jack. We're not going to toast them at this stage. And so I'm using a stone mortar and pestle. It's important that you don't use a wooden one. The wooden ones, they don't actually crush up things like hard seeds too well or anything. So I'm just going back in. I'm giving my sofrito a little stir. I'm being nice. Ooh, I splashed. I'm being nice and patient with my sofrito. And we're slowly but surely cooking down all the liquid from it. You can see that it's becoming more and more like a paste by the moment. Okay. Yes, Tarina, theoretically, yes. If you do already have pre-ground cumin that you need to use up, just use a little bit more. Okay? So, whole cumin seeds, I'm going to give them a little bit of a smashing. And then we're just going to go all the way around and give this a nice little rotation all the way through. Does anybody have any questions for me? We're making this incredible black bean soup. We have this fresh whole cumin seeds. Really want to get you all into the habit of using dried black beans. I want to get you all into the habit of using whole cumin seeds. Okay? It really makes a world of a difference. Grind it all up. Keep it going. Grind it up. Grind it up. And now you see we have like some of these like fibrous strands in there still. We want to just make sure that we're going ahead and processing and continuing to grind all this up. But yeah, we don't need to toast these spices because we're going to end up frying it in some of the oil. You see what is currently happening on the stove? It's still mixed in with the oil. Eventually, when this becomes dry enough, all the oil is going to separate from these vegetables, and then we could actually begin frying things in it again. Okay, just keep it going, keep it going. Perfect. So where did today's inspiration for the dish come from? It came from the fact that I looked at my fridge, I saw that I had some extra pickled onions, and then I was like, oh, I want to get rid of some pickled onions. And so I thought a really nice way to do pickled onions would just be to have it as a garnish for this black bean soup that we're doing today. You guys are so chilled today. Ooh, okay. Once it toasts, versus just letting the spice fry in the dish is medium, asks Serena Chess. So the difference is we toast them when we're not frying them later on. The reason that we fry them in oil is to get all the different flavors dissolved into the oil of the spice itself. So when we know, for example, this is going into a soup where everything is only going to be boiled, we toast them in advance. But if we know that we're still going to be like sauteing some vegetables, still cooking it down in some oil, then we'll just fry it into the oil instead. Toasting is only, I've realized, for instances where there is no like active like oil frying happening. Is there a childhood food that you hated as a kid but now you like/love? I guess, Jack, I never really ate seafood as a kid, like of any kind. I hated seafood. That'd be my one thing, I suppose. Okay, so you can see, this is now becoming, everybody, this is becoming a really beautiful paste. Take a look. I want you all to see the difference. Look at the stove. Look at what is happening. Look at the way that it's sort of standing up for itself now. It's grown up. This isn't the same sofrito that we started with a while ago. This is the same sofrito. This isn't the same one. It's grown up. It's standing up for itself. And the oil is about to start pooling out of it. You can see the oil start to seep out of it. It still has a little bit too much moisture, but it's getting there. It's getting nice and thick. We're evaporating all of that excess vegetable water. Okay? And soon enough, it's going to start frying in all of that chorizo fat that is still suspended inside. So just take it and spread it out. But at this stage, things can burn. So we do want to be paying attention to this and making sure that we're not leaving it alone too long, because otherwise the bottom of it can completely burn. So, spice grinder versus mortar and pestle, any preference or difference? So yes, there is a difference. And it is the difference between a mortar and pestle and a blender, which is one of them crushes and the other ends up just cutting. A spice grinder is very nice if you're looking for a complete fine powder. A mortar and pestle is really, really nice if you're looking just to like smash something down, if you're looking to just crush something. Let's say you have like Sichuan peppercorns and you just want to give them like a light tap, then you would use a mortar and pestle. So mortar and pestle gives you a lot more variety and texture. That beeping sound tells us that the black beans for today's black bean soup is done. Okay? Also, thank you, Serena, for being here. Really appreciate you. Drive safe. We're going to go ahead and grab this cute little condiment container that I have here, that I have dedicated for this purpose. And we're just going to go ahead and scoop out. Hey, Serena, I am not that word. That is not me. We're going to take out and scoop out all of this cumin that we freshly and beautifully ground up ourselves. No pre-ground cumin to be found here. Okay? Although you could theoretically use it and be fine, you just need a lot more of it. But freshly ground whole spices, so much warmer, so much tastier. Is everybody still watching? I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef, if you're tuning in. Okay, I'm going to take my silicone spatula, just going to move things around. You can now see it's beginning to really, really become a beautiful paste. That is exactly the stage of the sofrito that we should be at the moment. It's getting there. Just be patient with it all. And it's all going to come together. Okay. Also, hello, Maximum October. Hello, hello. So, all of my freshly ground cumin. Right here, I'm just going to go ahead and set that behind me. I'm going to have another piece of chorizo as a snack because I'm feeling bad. That's good. At the moment. So, let me go ahead and put this away. My pestle, that is. Let's go ahead and talk about everything that's going to today's soup again. At the moment, my sofrito is building. I have some chilies, I have charred tomatoes, I have some charred onions, I have some charred garlic, as well as some cilantro, and some charred bell pepper. And all of it was pulsed down, not into like a complete puree or anything, but we kept it nice and chunky. And now, we're cooking it down in a bunch of chorizo fat. We cooked down some chorizo, we're cooking down the paste now. And we're just getting the paste to a point where it can begin to actually fry and not just evaporate liquid. We're not just looking to evaporate the liquid from it, but we want it to properly and beautifully fry. In my pressure cooker, my black beans are done. Okay, my black beans are done. They pressure cooked on high for 40 minutes or so. Also, Jack, thank you, but that's okay. We got them nice and tender. We're going to keep all that cooking liquid that the black beans cooked in. We're just letting it naturally pressure release over the course of the next few minutes. Okay, I am going to have some more chorizo as a little snack in the meantime. Okay. It's just going. We're being nice and patient. And we're stirring it more often at the stage. Again, I want to reiterate, because this is the stage where things can absolutely burn if you let them. Okay? It's going. It's happening. It's slowly getting there. Slowly but surely. Okay, we can just chill out for a second because we don't have like a lot of like super active stuff to do at the moment. I can also just talk to you about my other components. While we do have some onion in the pot itself at the moment, I did have a medium onion that I diced up. Right, this was like half of my white onion got diced up, half of it ended up going into my sofrito because I really want to have the duality of onion. I wanted to have chunks of onion, and then I also wanted to have some like really melted and really flavor the whole soup. So we get like two very different sides of it. This is my cooked chorizo. Again, the chorizo completely optional as an element here. The chorizo is included so that we get the fat out of it. We took the fat, we cooked it, and then, you know, the actual pieces themselves, they're just going to be added and tossed in at the end. And then we have some of this really, really beautiful, freshly ground cumin. Is it cheese a fish? Stop it, Taza. Last request before I leave asks Tarina, can chefs somehow pre-say ingredients? I didn't get chorizo for today, so I'm going to make onions and potatoes and mushrooms from a previous stream today. Maybe. I can. But it's like, I feel like I decide my ingredient list sometimes like really, really last minute sometimes. You know what? Tarina, just for you, I might try. But the idea is, I don't want people to treat this as like a recipe. I want people to really, really look at this, and I want them to see like the techniques that I'm using here. Okay, everybody, The water is slowly evaporating. You can hear the sound of this paste changing, right? We're going from that, that lower end telling us that there's a lot of water still trapped inside to a higher end telling us that it is now beginning to actually get a little bit of color. Okay? It's getting there slowly but surely. And then if we need to add some additional fat, we will. Okay? Because the goal is to fry the sofrito properly, to actually properly brown it, to get some really, really beautiful color on it. And then once it's frying, we'll add in the cumin, really, really properly fry the cumin as well, and make the whole thing nice and delicious. And then we'll add in the black beans, we'll let the whole thing stew, and we'll make it nice and good. Okay. My sofrito is going. We could also just hit it with some salt at this stage. I don't think the salt is like too essential because it's going to be like a bean soup, so all of it is going to be dissolved anyways, but I'm sure this could help extract some more of the liquid and just help pull some of it out. I ended up refilling my salt container, so that has already all been taken care of. There we go. That's what we're looking for, everybody. We're looking for this paste, this beautiful, beautiful vegetable paste to really start developing at the stage. Nice and smoky, really, really good stuff. Nice and spicy from all those chilies too. Yeah, the black beans are already done. We could probably release the pressure in just a few minutes. I'm gonna continue to let it naturally pressure release in the meantime, and then we can just also take out the bay leaves, take out like the rest of it, clean it up a bit. That'll be the next thing that we do. Have a little bit of water. Make sure that I'm staying nice and hydrated. Yeah, there's no way to spin it. Cooking these vegetables in this way takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of time. You just got to give it some love. You got to just let it do its thing. You can't just throw this onto a high heat in some oil and then just be done with it. We got to wait for it to naturally release all of that oil that it's soaked up. Excellent. Okay. By the way, this is also a really, really good time to ask me any questions that you may have about this dish, about any other future dishes, anything that you may have going on food-wise. There is no such thing as a bad question. While we're just waiting for this to get done before everything else picks up for us. So, Minoru asks, how did I cook the chorizo? Because I've only found chorizo in dry crumbles before. So that's interesting. Are you talking about like ground crumbles as in sort of like vacuum packed and has like a bunch of liquid and then it immediately spills out? I'm not sure what you mean by like chorizo and ground crumbles. So I had my chorizo come in as like a whole sausage, and then because my chorizo was dry enough and intact enough, I was able to slice it up into coins. If you don't have access to that kind of chorizo, I do recommend finding just like another like high quality sausage that isn't like sopping wet. Oh, it's getting there. That paste is now building some really beautiful flavor. It is now sizzling away now. It's looking really, really good. Perfect. And now you can see how much volume has actually been lost in all of that liquid that we've evaporated from it. Yeah, just spills out a case. Okay, so minimum, that comes from the chorizo that you're actually buying. I would really recommend going to a Latin grocery store if possible, like finding like a Mexican supermarket near you, seeing if you can find a chorizo that actually looks like a sausage, right? That it comes in, like a casing and everything, and it doesn't look like sopping wet. Jack, you want to reduce the amount of meat that you eat, but you don't know which alternatives there are to protein. The way that I've always approached vegetarian and vegan cooking has never been from an approach of, oh, we're going to find substitutes to these existing things. I've looked at existing vegetarian and vegan cuisines, specifically a lot of Indian cooking, and I've just been like, well, what do they eat, right? A lot of different curries, a lot of different stews, etc. So, is there a good way of getting grease out of chorizo? And Rosie, my answer to you is embrace the fat. Embrace the fat and use it for something else. You don't have to necessarily use all of it immediately. Or alternatively, let's say you're making like a soup or you're using a stew. You can then use that chorizo fat to then cook the rest of your vegetables, or you could just take some out and then repurpose it for something else. I would say, instead of thinking about getting rid of the fat, I would think about ways of saving it and repurposing it. I hope that answers your question somewhat. Okay. Now my paste is beginning to sizzle away. It's beginning to properly fry. Beautiful. It's not really like releasing fat per se, but it is definitely starting to like sear on the bottom of my Le Creuset here, on the bottom of my Dutch oven. But yes, I mean, I would just like remove the actual chunks of chorizo themselves and then like drain it out over like some cheesecloth or something. Serena, I keep the skin on my sliced chorizo. I've never really peeled it. I thought the texture is always fine. Also, Serena, it would be exclamation mark wish list and not thumb. Although I should probably just make that a command too. Okay, everybody, you can see it's beginning to stick a little bit to the bottom. That's okay. All we're looking to do is just continue to keep it moving. We want to make sure that the bottom of this pan never gets too dark or anything, okay? So keep it moving a little bit longer. And now I'm going to release the pressure on my black beans. They've cooked, they got really nice and soft, really nice and creamy. Lovely. This is the stage where the paste can go from beautifully colored and beautiful and delicious to burnt and scorched in a matter of seconds. Okay? You can see how dry this pan got, and that's okay. The goal was to evaporate the liquid so that we can then brown it, so that we can then really develop some of that flavor. Okay? And I know it doesn't look too appealing at the moment, but I promise it's going to get really delicious. Just continue to babysit it. Continue just to keep all of this stuff moving around. Remember all those vegetables. You remember how that once filled up an entire pot. You can see how much of it just reduced down. It looks like tomato paste. If you've ever seen the way they make tomato paste, or like a sun-dried tomato paste, it's the same exact idea. Okay? Slowly but surely, my beautiful sofrito has now cooked down, and I know it doesn't look too appealing at the moment, but I promise you, it's going to make for quite a wonderful soup. It does taste delicious though. Ooh. Ooh, that's spicy. Wow. You're getting the sweetness, the acidity, the flavor. It's getting like those really deep roasted flavors. You're getting some of the smokiness from when we chug the vegetables under the broiler. Tastes incredible at the moment. And this is just vegetables. This is just purely vegetables at the moment. Okay, everybody, my black beans have officially finished cooking. We're going to go ahead and pop them out. And we're going to clean them up a little bit. The reason we have to clean them up is because we have some things that we need to discard. But this is my pot of black beans. Well, actually, I guess you can't see it particularly well. What are we going to do about that? Well, I'll figure out a solution in a second. Here's what we're going to do. My sofrito itself is basically done at the moment. The last step I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some of my cumin and basically let that toast as well in this pan. Okay? Before we add in the wet components, we just want the cumin to beautifully toast up. So just spread it around, mix it through the sofrito and everything. Keep it moving. Make sure that none of the cumin is like stuck to the bottom of the pan or anything. Keep it moving. Keep it going. And that should be it. We can now shut off the heat. My sofrito is now fully done. That's exactly what it should look like. Just keep it moving. You can see that there's some cumin stuck to the bottom here. Just move it along. Move it along. And let's go ahead and take this pot off the heat. Come on, buddy. Up you go. Up. I'm just continuing to move it because, again, it's a Le Creuset, it's a Dutch oven. It carries with it a lot of residual heat. Okay, this is my pot of black beans, everybody. Come take a look. My black beans, they got nice and tender. They fully cooked through. The cooking liquid is gold for this dish today. The cooking liquid is essential. Everybody, I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef. We do not waste the cooking liquid in the black beans. The things that we do get rid of, I mean, we don't need this onion. We don't need the garlic cloves anymore. Everybody, please say thank you to the onion. Please say thank you to the garlic. Please say thank you to the bay leaves. Okay? Let's get them out of here. They've done their job. They have served me well. Out they go. Out they go. I'm just going in, you know, with my spider, basically a big old strainer on a stick. Just getting out all of the bay leaves. Oh, I'm wasting a few beans, but that's okay. There we go. See another garlic clove that we've yet to get rid of. Okay. Is today going to be another like fairly short stream? Relatively speaking, I think it will be. This is my bell pepper chunk I see in here as well. Go ahead and just get rid of that. Okay. That should now be okay. Well, somewhat. Ah. That'll be okay. All right, everybody, so we have this big, beautiful pot of black beans. Now, we want to go ahead and ladle in. I'm going to just move this aside, put this back onto the stove here. Ooh, the handles are hot. I ended up scorching myself a little bit. That's totally okay. Now the goal is what? We want to go ahead and ladle in beans and liquid and all into my lovely pot here. Actually, in fact, the best way to do it would be like this. We're going to ladle it in now. I don't know if I'm going to use all of this for today. I think I might want to save some of these beans for something else in the future. I still see a bay leaf that I have failed to get rid of. Again, if you come across like a little chunk of bay leaf, it's not the end of the world, it just gets kind of unpleasant. Okay? So just get all of that, cooking liquid and all of that into the pot, everybody. For a beautiful pot of black bean soup. And now we're just going to go ahead and mix everything in, and we're going to turn it onto the heat, everybody. Mix in the sofrito, mix in the cumin, mix in everything that we can possibly get. And now the goal is to reduce all of that really, really delicious bean cooking liquid. Okay? And to get it really, really nice and thick. That's going to be the goal for us. Just mix in the sofrito really, really beautifully. We have so much flavor now that is built inside of this pot. And also, wait, don't forget about my onion. I had an entire onion, or rather, half a head of onion. I just want to get that in there as well. And I know this looks really thick at the moment. That's because it is. We might need to just end up adding like a little bit more water at some point. Am I just going to do all of the black beans? I think I'm just going to do all the black beans. I've decided. Yeah. Today we're just going in with all the beans. Into the pot they go. Lovely. We're making a very respectable big thing of black bean soup here. Yes, Jack, my hands are more than okay. Okay. There you go. That has now been done. All the black beans go inside. And now this all just has to boil away beautifully. I want to get this thing nice and rich. I want it to get nice and thick. I want it to get nice and viscous. I want it to get nice and flavorful. I want to get those onions cooked down properly. I want to get the sofrito infused into all of the soup. So this, at this stage, might take around 20 minutes or so. I still see that I have some bay leaves that I haven't gotten rid of yet. Okay, just get it going. This is why we wanted that cooking liquid. That cooking liquid is going to make the whole thing really, really thick. It's going to make the whole thing really viscous. So, everybody, that's the majority of the black bean soup. Does anybody have any questions for me at the moment? I suppose now would also be a really good time for a taste. I already know that this is not going to have enough salt, so I'm going to hit it with a bit more salt before we actually do the tasting. And then we're going to finish the whole thing with oregano shortly. Ah, gorgeous. Let's have a little taste. And once again, this is a really, really good time for any questions. So we're just slowing down a little bit at this point. Okay. Ah. Oh, guys. Oh. Oh my goodness. That That is so good. The sofrito, that little bit of vegetable paste, the little sofrito, that was a little bit chili, that was a little bit smoky. That has given this whole thing a ridiculous, quite frankly, ridiculous amount of flavor. The goal now is just for us to soften the onions, to reduce the whole thing a little bit. But this is honestly pretty impeccable as it is. Wow. That is gorgeous. It's got the heat from the chilies as well. It's got everything that you could possibly want. I have another taste of that. That is really good. Making your own sofrito. So again, typically people, they buy like a canister of like Goya sofrito or something, and it's fine. But going out of your way to make your own sofrito, it is honestly night and day. It is a completely different product. This one is smoky, it has all the flavor, it has all the spice, it has all the heat from those chilies. That is full of flavor. Everybody should be making their own sofrito for things like this. Honestly, so good. Honestly, this is more of just like a pot of beans than it is like a bean soup, but I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that. I have no opposition. We'll also add in the chorizo at this point, right, just for it to like cook in a little bit. But the goal is not for this to be a chorizo focused soup. We just really wanted the chorizo fat. Okay, that's going. That's happening at the moment. It's looking fantastic. I'm really, really happy about the direction of this that it has taken. Just taking a second to go ahead and put some things away. Let's go ahead and work on some of the garnishes for this. And then I think we're gonna go ahead and build a grilled cheese. I don't know why I decided to have a grilled cheese with this today. It's not particularly authentic. I just felt like a grilled cheese would be really, really delicious at the moment. That was my entire motivation, like beginning and end of doing a grilled cheese. So just make sure that we're just scraping up the sides and stuff. We're making sure that nothing is scorching, especially on the bottom. Oh, guys, that is incredible. That is so good. Wow. So that's the majority of the work for the beans too. Let's go ahead and get started on some of my garnishes for today. I'm gonna go ahead and get my cilantro out yet again. So all that we need to do, we just need to cook it down. Jack will be doing a mixture of cheddar and American, just because it'll melt nice. It'll be good and cozy. So, a little bit of cilantro. This is just going to be for the top. This is just going to be for garnishing reasons. We're going to start assembling our garnish plate. Cilantro. Everybody, we're going to remove the stems because these are going to be completely raw. These are just going to go on top. These bad boys, we do not want the stems. Lovely. Yeah, I don't know why I've decided a grilled cheese with this today. It's not like authentic or traditional or anything. It's just because I wanted a grilled cheese. Goonbag, you should DM me. I've always wanted to do menu and recipe development. Absolutely. You should DM me. On Twitter or Discord or something. That's a very fun idea. Okay, everybody, cilantro. We have a nice big fresh pile of cilantro here. This is going to go on top because again, you cannot make any Hispanic food whatsoever. You can't make Mexican cooking. You can't do anything without the presence of cilantro. It is essential, essential, essential. So everybody, we're going to take all the cilantro. We're going to bundle it up in our hands. We're going to basically roll it up nice and tight. Okay? We're going to roll it up nice and tight. We're going to put it down on a cutting board. And now, the number one rule with cilantro, we're going to slice it. So, man on the net, if you're cooking with cilantro and you want something that's not cilantro because you have the soap gene, you would use culantro. People with the soap gene, they don't have that soapiness with culantro. If you're going for something raw, people typically just swap in parsley or something. I hope that helps. So, put it down on your cutting board and we're going to slice it. We're not going to chop it. We're not using a vertical motion. We're using the full length of a knife, and we're thinly slicing it so that we don't cleave it like an axe. We don't destroy it. We don't just squeeze out all the chlorophyll from this. And then we're going to go ahead and take the whole thing and give it a little rotation. And again, slice it, don't chop it, slice it. Thank you. This is my Kramer's Willing knife. Okay, that's it. That's all we want to do. Again, this is just going to be for garnishes, so we don't want to like go too crazy with this. I'm going to get my handy dandy little bench scraper and just scoop all of it off. And you can see it didn't stick to my cutting board. If your herbs stick to your cutting board, it's because you released a bunch of liquid as you cut it. It's because you used a dull knife and you chopped it. But by slicing it and using a sharp knife and being gentle and delicate, we preserve the structure and the anatomy of it. So, back to the stove. Back to my beautiful pot of black beans here, everybody. Now, it is getting a little bit too thick on the bottom. You can hear that sound. It's sticking and maybe even burning on the bottom because we kind of left it alone a little too long. That's okay. Nothing that a little scraping won't fix. Just move it around, get it back in there, get it back into the game. It's all going to be okay. Just the beans, when they end up getting so viscous, it ends up getting kind of dry at the bottom of the pot. So we did end up leaving it a little bit too unattended. We're going to taste it to make sure that it's not too scorched, but I have a feeling that it's okay. It just ended up drying off a little too much on the bottom. This is something that you do want to be stirring fairly often, okay? Now, we're not going to like mash up these beans or anything. It has plenty of viscosity purely from the process of just cooking down all of that bean liquid. But we may end up thinning this out with a little bit of water. If this is too thick to your liking, guys, you can always just add in some water. Okay, just keep it moving. I'm just scraping up the bottom, only using wooden and silicone utensils. I'm also glad that you like the cooking show, Nintendo. Okay. Lovely. Nice medium low heat at maximum. Ooh, I just splashed some on my hands. And if you guys have never splashed like bean cooking liquid on your hands, it's sticky and it stays there. It's very unpleasant. Oh yeah, that is not burnt at all. That is just delicious, in fact. Let's have another spoonful of my black bean soup. Let's go ahead and get a little bit. Oh my God. That is one of the tastiest pots of beans I've ever made. Do you guys understand how many times I've made beans? I can't even count the amount of times that I made beans. That is one of the best. And all of it is because of that homemade sofrito. Do not sleep on homemade sofrito. It adds that smokiness, that spiciness, that acidity, that sweetness. It has everything that you could possibly want. And all we're doing now, we're just cooking down the onions. And my final touch on this, we're going to do some really nice quality oregano. A nice big generous pinch of that. If you have Mexican oregano, you can use that. I'm just using this, not too much, because I don't want it to become overpowering. Okay? Just mix it all in. Too much, and then I find that like oregano can almost make something taste bitter. And that's not what I'm looking for out of this. So mix it all in, let it happen, let it cook, let those onions continue to soften, and let that oregano infuse at this point. Okay? That is an incredible pot of beans. Okay. So, I have a little bit of lime here because I wanted some lime as a garnish for my soup today as well. I'm just going to go ahead and grab it. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut it up into cute little triangles, or, you know, thirds, I suppose. Like so. 1 and 2. It is time for me to also sharpen my knives, probably. There we go. Some nice little lime wedges. I don't need the rest of this lime. I can put that away. And then I also have some really, really nice pickled onions that I wanted to use for today. The entire point of this, the entire inspiration was I looked at my fridge, I looked at the pickled onions that we made on Sunday, and I didn't want them, you know, to go to waste, and I wanted a really, really nice excuse to use them. And so my spicy pickled onions would be an excellent addition to something like this. I'm just continuing to just scrape up the bottom, guys, making sure that it's not getting too dry down there. Continuing to soften, continuing to cook up those onions. Lovely. Okay, I mean, that would be fun. I would enjoy that. But I would like to like teach things on the stream. I don't want to like do things I'm not like too confident in, Serena. Okay, look at my gorgeous pickled onions. Right? Nice and pink, nice and like fluorescent almost. Oh my God, the garlic itself also gets like that color. It's pretty crazy. Look at all these pickled onions. Excellent. And then we'll also get some of these pickled chilies for a bit of additional heat. Love using chopsticks just to be able to get it out without getting any of the additional brine out. Okay. Perfect. And all of that is going to be used for today's garnishes. Excellent. Does anybody have a question at the moment? How to hone a knife with another knife? Oh man, that's what my grandpa used to do. It's not a very efficient method, but it can work. It can do the job. Okay, so here are my garnishes. Some lovely pickled onions, some cilantro, and some limes. Lovely. Let's just go back to the stove. Let's make sure that we're stirring this pot. We're agitating it. We're making sure that nothing, and I do mean nothing at all, could be possibly sticking and burning on the bottom. Okay. It's still going to need more salt. I tasted it before. I was like, I'm not happy with the amount of salt in this. So another nice big generous pinch of salt going inside. Let the whole thing infuse. Let it all season up nicely. That's what I'm talking about. That is a good, guys, that is a good looking pot of beans, isn't it? Also, Guchu, the reason why there is no written version of this recipe is because I don't want to teach recipes. Nothing that I'm teaching here is a recipe. Everything that I'm teaching here is technique. So if you have any questions about anything that we're doing, this is an excellent place to ask. But I want you to look at what we're doing, and I want you to see like, oh, okay, how can I use the things that I have at home, right? If you don't have chorizo, what kind of other sausages can you swap it out with? In the beginning of the stream, we talked about some of the vegetables we can swap out with for the sofrito itself. Everything that I want to do is just help you to be able to understand these things, right? And so, you can ask, I would love for you to ask me if there's any kind of substitutions. If there's like an ingredient you have a question about, I would be really happy to answer it. Also, welcome in. It's good to have you. Welcome, welcome. I'm just drying off my knife, getting that done and out of the way. Lovely. Also, this soup would be really nice with some sour cream. I don't know if I have any sour cream at the moment, but that would just be a really good addition to this. Like on top at the end. Okay. So again, the only goal at the moment was just to get those onions cooked through. Everything else has cooked through. Everything else has now beautifully infused into my stew. I ended up mixing up the words stew and soup, and I got stew. Are there any other bean substitutions that would have a similar taste? Yeah, pinto beans or even red beans. I think red beans, like red kidney beans, would be really good. Are organic foods as expensive in America as in Europe? Yes, Jack. Our organic foods are incredibly expensive here. Chef, if we want to follow along, it's kind of nice to know if we need to get more beans or chorizo. Oh, Chef, if we want to follow along, it'd be nice to know if we need to get more beans or chorizo. That's a good point, Serena. Look, we'll get into posting ingredient lists. I think so. I think that would be nice. A lot of people have asked for it. Well, oh my God. Hands down, one of the most flavorful, one of the most flavorful, one of the most delicious pots of beans I've ever made. And you guys have seen me make so many different beans on the stream, haven't you? Completely from scratch. We made that sofrito. The sofrito is the heart and the soul of this. That is an incredible one. Also, hello, Liam. Hello, hello. Oh, I just want to eat this as it is right now. I kind of like the onions not being completely soft at this stage, by the way. I like how firm they are still. So, Goon. So, farmers markets can be cheaper than supermarkets. However, not in New York City. In New York City, the farmers markets are about 3 to 4 times as expensive as supermarkets. About making a recipe book for every meal. Trash Can Cat Mom, I have not, because I just want to teach you all technique at the end of the day. None of this is a recipe, right? I'm telling you, homemade sofrito, that is the key to something like this, okay? That is the key. That is the magic. That's the beauty. Okay. I think I'm comfortable to say that the soup is done. Everybody, the soup is done. I'm going to go ahead and slap a lid on it. Let's go ahead and get this grilled cheese done. We're going to make the most simple, but the most incredible grilled cheese, and we'll talk about the technique and the theory for it. Okay? So, let's begin. I'm going to take a lid. I'm going to put it onto my lovely pot of black beans here. And I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. Nice. I don't need these utensils anymore either at the moment. Everybody, let's do a little recap session before we begin the grilled cheese for today. We have done today something pretty incredible. Okay? We have made an incredible, beautiful pot of black beans. We made black bean stew today. We had dried black beans because we do not work with canned beans on the stream. Dried black beans, you get to control the texture better. You get the cooking liquid as an amazing byproduct. Okay? And then you also save a lot of money because canned black beans are 1.5 times as expensive. Next, we made a sofrito. We had some tomatoes, some bell peppers, some garlic, some onions. We charred it. We pulsed it down with a little bit of cilantro and with some chilies as well. Nice and spicy, acidic, sweet. It has everything that you want in it. We had some chorizo. We browned it. We got the fat out of it. And then we cooked my sofrito in all of that chorizo fat. We added in some freshly ground up cumin. We added in the black beans. We reduced it. We have this beautiful, beautiful, delicious, viscous stew at this point. We added in some oregano. We added in some more onion. It has so much flavor. And then we also added back in the coins of chorizo. And now, let's make a little grilled cheese. Do you typically see a grilled cheese with a black bean soup? Not that I know of. Why are we doing this? Because I wanted a grilled cheese. So let's make a good grilled cheese. That's going to be the plan at the moment. Okay. So let's talk about my bread choices. Everybody, for grilled cheese, for me, I want you all to tap in. I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef, from everybody watching right now. I get to talk about my grilled cheese theory. Okay. I'm eating a grilled cheese. Do I want something that is going to cut the roof of my mouth? And do I want something that is so crusty and so painful to get through and like thick, massive slices of bread? No. When I think of a grilled cheese, I think of soft. I want to hear yes, chef, from everybody. Not just the regulars. I want to hear it from everybody. Please and thank you. I want soft, squishy sandwich bread. That is what I think of when I think of a grilled cheese. So, I have here for my local Chinese bakery, this really, really nice, this really, really pleasant, white sandwich bread for my Chinese bakery. Theoretically, you can use Wonder bread. You can use any kind of white bread for this. I just want a squishy, soft, pleasant bread for something like this, and this is basically the best of its kind that you can get. Okay, let's go ahead and assemble this grilled cheese really quickly. So, let's talk about melting cheeses. I'm going to say right now, not every cheese is meant to be melted. And if there's French people in chat, you know what they're going to say? Oh, Daramgar, how could you use American cheese? But let me tell you why. American cheese melts beautifully well because it is an emulsified cheese. It has a little bit of sodium citrate in it. It is a cheese blend. American cheese melts up really beautifully, ooey and gooey, without leaking out a lot of excess fat or anything. Other kinds of cheese, you melt it, and then the proteins separate from the fat, okay? And it gets kind of like a greasy mess, and a lot of dried cheeses don't lend themselves very well to this. So we didn't make our own American cheese. We're going to probably do that at some point and experiment with some sodium citrate, okay? But guess what I have? You know what I have? I have here some good old-fashioned American cheese, everybody. Super, super thin slices because we're going to stack it, okay? That's a little treat. Really, really nice and thin. We're going to end up stacking it, okay? We're going to use about, let's do like 3 of these because it's a grilled cheese, guys. It's all about the cheese. We're going to use 3 of those slices. Why is it so yellow? Good question. Because American cheese is a mixture between cheddar and Monterey Jack. and also may have some coloring in it as well. So take a look. Now, we could also cut a crust off. You could use shredded cheese. I'm going to be layering my cheeses because cheddar cheese is not an emulsified cheese quite like American cheese is. So I'm almost going to be taking my cheddar cheese and I'm going to be stacking it in between my layers of American cheese and sandwiching it on the inside like that. Okay? The American cheese is going to help. There's going to be like some heterogeneity to it. It's going to be gooey, and then like the actual like cheddar is going to be a stretchy component. But we have a nice, respectable stack of cheese here. Now, why am I using 5 slices? It's because these are really hyper thin slices. I got these from my deli. Do not get pre-sliced cheese. Just go to a deli, get a nicely, freshly sliced for you. Okay, really, really soft, really squishy, really pleasant sandwich bread. But the trick of it comes into the cooking. Okay, I'm going to take a second. I'm going to go ahead and put my cheese away. But I'm pretty excited about my actual cooking method for this. It's something that I've given a lot of thought. It's something that I've given a lot of effort to. Also, by the way, you can put other things inside of there if you really, really want to. You can do stuff like, I have some pickled onions. I could have put some inside of there. You could do some spices in there. I just want a plain, cozy grilled cheese. I don't need it to be aggressively hyper seasoned or anything. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We are going to make sure that this grilled cheese sandwich gets pressed when it cooks. Think about the bread. This isn't completely flat. It naturally will have some perforations and it will naturally not come into full contact with the pan. The thing that I really, really want to do is press it when it cooks so that it gets even browning. And in order to achieve that, I will be using a carbon steel pan that will be wrapping in a little bit of foil. Now, if I had some cooking weights, which I really, really would love to buy at some point, I would love to buy some like really nice proper cooking weights. That would be a really, really good tool here, like a bacon press. I do not actually own one. So instead, I'm going to be using this ridiculously heavy carbon steel pan. We just have to make sure that it's going to fit inside and fit inside it will. Because this is the pan that I'll be making this on. Okay, excellent. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap the bottom of it with some foil. Because I don't want to have to like wash my pan after and stuff. Also, the bottom of your pans tends to be quite dirty. Just staying nice and clean, nice and organized. So all I'm going to do, everybody, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to wrap the bottom of the pan in some aluminum foil. And we're going to make a pseudo press this way. Chef, clean your pan. Liam, my pan is clean. It's just a seasoned carbon steel pan. Okay. This is a very heavy carbon steel pan. This sandwich is going to end up getting flattened, but that's okay. So this, I'm just going to have it sit behind me for a little bit because we don't need it immediately. And now, here's the next key. Everybody, temperature control. Temperature control. The biggest mistake that I see people do, by the way, I'm going to tell you something I don't love. I don't love putting butter directly onto the bread itself. All that I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this pan up and then I'm going to put butter on the surface that the bread will end up occupying. And then it's going to press down and it's going to get a very, very nice even contact that way. I don't want to see you using sourdough bread, anything that has a lot of holes where the cheese is going to pull out of. I don't want to see you using Parmesan for this. I want you to use nice, soft, ooey gooey, delicious melting cheeses. So we're heating this up on a medium and we want to make sure that we have 2 pats of butter. What we want to do is have a pat of butter go on, spread it around, add the sandwich, take the sandwich off, add the next thing of butter, and then flip it over on the other side. By doing it this way, we make sure that we control the amount of fat. The bread is naturally going to soak up some fat. So we don't want to have enough oil in here to compensate for both sides of the bread because it's going to soak up too much of it. That is one big mistake that people do. They don't know how to control the amount of fat that they have going into the grilled cheese. So we're heating this up on a medium-low flame, pretty empty. Okay? And I am going to get my thing of butter. we're going to get enough butter for each side. You want to think about how much butter you want your sandwich to have. So, this is my little butter container. This is my little butter dish. I'm going to portion out 2 even slabs of butter. I am serious about my grilled cheese. Chat, do I mess around when it comes to grilled cheeses? I want to hear a nice resounding no, chef. Please and thank you from everybody watching. Okay. That's for one side. Is that going to be enough? Are these pats of butter a little bit too thin? I think it's going to be, you know what, we can do a slightly bigger one. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Well, let's, this is going to be fine. It's going to be more than fine. Okay. These 2 little pats of butter. 3. I want more butter. I want it to be nice and rich. I want to make sure that's getting a nice good contact. Okay, everybody, let's go to the heat now. Let's go to the heat. We don't want this butter to be sizzling. We don't want it to be too hot. The goal is for this to cook slowly enough for the cheese inside to get melty. If your heat is too high, you're going to end up toasting it way before it's ready. The goal is to slowly cook it from the inside. So here's what you do. You spread a very specific surface area of the butter for the first side. And then we take our sandwich and we lay it on. We're cooking this on a medium-low heat. We take it and we spin it around to make sure that it is in even contact with all that butter. And now everybody, if you have a bacon press, if you have a food press of some kind, this would be the place to use it. I do not. I'm using the bottom of a carbon steel pan. And we're making sure that we're smashing it down slightly. It's going to slightly flatten, but that is also going to help it to melt on the inside. Low, medium, low flame. Do not do this on a high heat. You do this on a high heat and you will have cold, unmelted cheese on the inside. Is that clear? Can I please get a yes, chef, right now? So I know this isn't a very exciting process. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and then we're going to open it up and take a little peek at it. Okay? But this is how we ensure that we have a nice even weight pressing it down. Thank you, jellyfish. Medium, low flame. It's going to soak up that amount of fat. That's why we pre-portion the fat before going into this. Okay, you can see the sandwich is properly flattened. We can even give it a little inspection. We can give it a little peek just to see, hey, how's it doing on the bottom? And I can already tell you, I took a peek at it. It's a little bit blonde still. So I'm just going to give it a nice little rotation. Make sure that it's going evenly. Okay, and put it back on. I really, really would like to get some nice bacon weights, some nice chef weights of some kind. Guys, if I put that on my wish list, would somebody help fund those? That would be nice, instead of having to do this with a pan. Although a pan works in a pinch. Okay. Nice and slowly, everybody. And we give it a rotation just to make sure that it's evenly cooking. What are chef weights? There's a really, really nice brand of chef designed weights that can stack on each other and that let you get an even sear on something. On stove, Serena. Okay. Let's go ahead and give this a little look. Let's give this a little inspection now. Let's see how far along has my grilled cheese come. Look at the color. Look at the color. Chat, is that enough? I don't think that's enough color, but it's starting to get there. I want to push this a little bit further on this first side. So we're going to give it another rotation, and we're going to put it back down a little bit longer. Medium, low flame is the key. You see how even that contact is? You see how even that color is? That's because we have a weight on it. That's because we're pressing it down evenly, and we're going to get that inside perfectly gooey. Chat, I do not mess around when it comes to grilled cheeses. The thing that I love doing is whenever I'm at a woman's place or I have a woman over, I do love impressing them with a grilled cheese. I haven't had one in a while because I don't normally keep bread at home, but this is the thing that I do, okay? My Daramgar techniques, sorry. Okay, there we go. I think that should now be enough. Remember, do not be tempted to use a high heat. Medium and low and slow to get it perfectly cooked through all the way on the inside. Now, take it. And you're going to flip it over on this side. Look at the color on that grilled cheese. Move fast. Take your next thing of butter, your next pat of butter. Don't forget about this guy. Put it down. You can hear how hot that got. We're going to lower that heat, everybody. We're lowering that heat. We're going to add in a touch more butter. A touch more butter, because again, I want a nice, rich grilled cheese. And then I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put it down And I'm going to make sure that I'm spreading my butter all the way around the surface of it yet again. And now everybody, part 2. Let's take it and let's flatten it. It's going to be a little bit smushed. It's going to be a little bit flattened. It's low heat. Lower that heat, everybody. Lower that pan temperature. Okay? This is real stuff. Does spreading butter on the bread itself change anything? I don't think it's a good method, keepers. I don't think it's a good method. In fact, when the bread heats up, the butter on top ends up melting and it ends up getting soaked in by the bread and it doesn't get as good of a contact. You know what I hate? I hate cooked mayonnaise. I hate people who say, oh, you can use mayonnaise instead of butter. Guess what? Cooked mayonnaise, to my palate, has a very slight taste. I hate it. I love the taste of butter. I love the taste of cooked butter. So we use butter and not this bizarre, like, oh, mayonnaise is going to get you a nice even browning on this. Okay? That's what I'm talking about. This is exactly what a grilled cheese should be to me, at least. And it's getting nice and flattened. Why? Because of my weight being actually that heavy. This second side was a little bit hotter than the first side, so we have to make sure that it's going nicely. Give it a little inspection. Let's give it a bit of a rotation. And let's pop it back down. Again, it wouldn't get this flattened if you had like actually like nicely weighted weights. It's just a little too heavy, right? Hence why it is becoming so flat. But by cooking it this slowly, we ensure that the inside gets melted. And that's what we wanted above all else. Otherwise, then what would have been the point? Okay, everybody, guess what? I think my grilled cheese is done. That second side was substantially hotter than the first side. It happens sometimes. It's totally okay. Don't sweat it too much. Just take it, pick it up. I could go a little bit longer probably, actually, now that I'm looking at it. Take it, pop it back down, rotate it, and press it yet again. In the meantime, let's go ahead and build the plate for today. Bam. We're going to move fast because I don't want my, cheese to burn. I'm actually going to do that too. Okay. Everybody, what do you think? Is it time for us to pull off my really, really beautiful grilled cheese? Is it time? I think it's time. Guys, I told you, I don't mess around when it comes to grilled cheeses. I make some pretty incredible ones, and I take them really seriously. I don't think we'll need this anymore. I think we're done. Everybody, please say thank you to the carbon steel pan. He did a wonderful job for us today. Let's go ahead and take all of this, scoop it up. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the color on this grilled cheese. Look how perfect it is. Perfect, isn't it? It's hot. I'm holding a hot piece of bread in my hands right now. And now, let's go in here. We're going to cut it like so, into corners, into, little triangles. Give it a little second. We're not going to get an incredible cheese pull because, again, it was flattened that much that we've lost a little bit of volume. But if you really want, ooh, cheese pull, whatever, right? I guess you can do that, theoretically. Cheese pull, and then I'm going to soy jack. You guys ready for this? Hold on. Ow, I'm burning myself holding this. Something like that. Sorry, that was cringe. Okay, but that is a good looking grilled cheese. It's thin because of how much it was pressed. If I had lighter weights, it wouldn't be as pressed. But I want you all to see the inside of this grilled cheese. I want you all to see how beautiful it is. Serve this immediately. Look at that. It's good. That's what a good grilled cheese looks like. To me, that is a perfect grilled cheese. Look at the color. Look how even the contact is. Wait, I'm not eating this with the soup. Uh-oh. Okay. That was not my intention. The whole point was I wanted to eat this with the soup. It needs more cheese. Dosky, you're saying that because of how much it was flattened. If it wasn't flattened as much, it would look like there would be more cheese. I promise you that is plenty of cheese. That was 5 slices of cheese in there. Although, you can just do more. Because it is a grilled cheese at the end of the day. It's all about the cheese. Okay. I told you, I am proud of my grilled cheeses. Look at it. Look at it oozing out. That is what a perfect grilled cheese looks like, everybody. Okay? And now, let's go ahead and ladle in. I have my ladle right there. Excellent. Mix it around a little bit. Guys, I'm going to get a beautiful ladle of my black bean soup. Oh, gorgeous. This is what comfort food is about, everybody. This is home comfort food every single day of the week. Ooh. And then we're going to go ahead and take some fresh cilantro right on top. We're going to go ahead and take some really nice, beautiful pickled onions right on top. And we're going to take a really, really nice lime wedge. If I subscribe to the Patreon, do I get one of those blue bowls? You do not. I'm so sorry. And then a little bit of lime juice on top. Everybody, look at this. Look at this. Now, is this a traditional pairing by any means? Absolutely not. But there it is, everybody. This is my chorizo black bean soup and my perfect, incredible grilled cheese. The black bean soup entirely from scratch. We did it from dried black beans. We started with dried black beans. Okay? We don't use canned beans here. We made a really, really delicious, wonderful broth with them. We made some sofrito, right? We chopped some tomatoes, some bell peppers, some chili, some garlic, some onions, some cilantro as well. Pulsed it down. We cooked some chorizo. We got the fat. We cooked the sofrito in the fat itself. We added in some cumin. We added in some oregano. And everybody, we made this incredible grilled cheese. Oh no, Daramgar! You added American cheese! Les tragédies! No, American cheese, optimal for melting in a grilled cheese. It is layered in American and cheddar cheese in different alternating layers. So, is this, a traditional pairing to have a grilled cheese with the black bean soup? Not in the slightest. I just really wanted to have some together. And has some pickled onions on top, some lime juice. Everybody, let's have a taste. Let's have a taste. Oh. Oh, that is so good. That is spicy and flavorful, and the acidity of the lime juice and the pickled onions and the freshness of the cilantro. That is an incredible soup. That is one of the best things of beans I've ever made. Some grilled cheese. Look at the color. Look at the color of my grilled cheese. Chat, I have a question. Who makes a better grilled cheese than me? The answer is nobody. This is how you do it perfectly at home. Remember what I told you. Butter, pre-measure your butter, put it on the flat surface, and have a weight. Having a weight gives you this incredible crust. That's how you get that even cooking. You really stack on the cheese. You have a nice, beautiful melting cheese. Guys, this is a real proper grilled cheese. It's like the kind that you grew up in American school cafeterias, except better. It's just freshly made. Look at that grilled cheese. Oh, that is so good. Oh my God. Okay. Everybody, that's it. Thank you all for being here. That's my black bean soup and my grilled cheese. This is the best time to ask me any final questions. Next stream is going to be this Friday, 5 p.m. EST, as always, same time as usual. Everybody, if you haven't already done so, please check out my Patreon. If you want to support what we do here, check out my Patreon, !Patreon, or just scroll down and go into my About section. Every single dollar there helps, it really, really does. I want to be able to do this full time. Oh yeah, Minu, I do love ceviche. Yeah, Jack, we're going to find somebody to raid. We're going to find somebody to raid. Yeah, so please support the Patreon if you can. Otherwise, a sub, a tip, a dono always helps. We're going to go ahead and find somebody who is currently live. Thank you all for being here. Once again, 5 p.m. EST. Join my Discord if you haven't already done so. !Discord if you want to join the community. There's also a private Patreon Discord server if you would like to parasocially chat. And there, you can do that too. Okay, let's go ahead and see who is currently live. I see Eat at Dad's is live. Great friend of the stream. Let's go ahead and grade them. Okay, Everybody, thank you. Oh, hold on. That's the wrong one. Uh-oh. Okay, everybody, thank you all for being here. Once again, next stream is going to be this Friday, 5 p.m. EST. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being with me along this black bean soup and grilled cheese journey. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you all have a lovely, wonderful rest of your nights.